Hey guys, welcome to Boxing Squad for boxing news and views from around the internet. The tit for tat and the war of words between Team Joe Joyce and Jarrell Miller is picking up as Joyce looks to pursue a fight with Miller, who's looking to come back to the ring shortly after issues with performance-enhancing drugs. He's currently out of the WBA rankings for 6 months as a result of multiple failed tests, and Joyce has been pursuing him as one of a number of names he's looking to fight next. And there has been some beef that sort of bubbled up to the surface in recent days. I'll put a video, my initial video of that, up at the end of this one if you hadn't caught that. But this latest stuff is quite funny because Team Joyce has looked to expose Jarrell Miller and some of his statements. So I'll start first with, and you can see here on screen, this is a tweet from Joe Joyce on Twitter, of course, and he says, "Time to stop talking, big boy. The boxing fans need to see you beaten up. Hashtag the juggernaut is ready. Let's go. Hashtag Big Belly Miller." And this video clip is about a minute long or so, but I won't play the sound of it because it's got some music and some sound effects, and that sort of stuff can get me in trouble with Content ID. But in terms of this here, this is from Miller's own Instagram account. This was him actually admitting to that he messed up performance-enhancing drugs, but the sort of theme from this video was Joe Joyce calling Miller out on certain statements about what he would do, when he would be ready to face Joe Joyce and that sort of thing. Joyce and his manager had been chasing Jarrell Miller the best part of a year ago, trying to lure him into a fight, and Miller effectively said, look, you've got to work your way to the top. You have to actually have something to offer instead of being some prospect who delivers basically nothing. That was the sort of tenor of Miller's comments back then. But now, obviously, Joe Joyce is starting to advance in the heavyweight division. Arguably, his best win of Bryant Jennings is as good as any of Jarrell Miller's best wins, which would be, Johan Dorper, Marius Wok, Gerald Washington, and Bryant Jennings certainly, would sit comfortably with those names. But Joyce trolling Jarrell Miller in this video, you can go check it out on his social media. And that prompted a response from Jarrell Miller himself. And you can see here, this one here, which I will now play, and Miller does not hold back. And as we know, he can be extremely entertaining, extremely cutting, but this is some statements in this that Sam Jones, Joyce's manager, is sort of launching into, because Miller is saying, you're not the one, send me the contract. If you really believe you want to fight me, let's get it going.
All right, first of all, let's get this straight, because I ain't got no time to make no highlight videos and all that. Like, that shit's corny. Number one, we all know Joe Joyce got a tough bone in his body. I don't even know if he have a bone in the body where he fight. I know it's his 5-foot manager, maybe 110 pounds soaking wet. Don't you know I would pick your little ass up and dump you in a garbage can and beat Joe Joyce with the garbage can? Let me tell your lurch looking at something. You know you don't want no smoke. The first time you see me, you almost shit yourself. You I am group looking mofo. Like, bruh, stop doing shit for clout, because I will smoke you. And tell your goddamn old ass promoter, stop tagging me in your retarded ass posts. I would duct tape his asshole, handcuff him to the bathroom sink, and feed him prune juice so he die of constipation. I'm not the one, bro. Believe me, I'm not the one. If you really was serious, my manager would be calling me with an offer right now. But you're full of shit. I will beat the 1% and 3-4% of black left in your ass, whatever the hell you is. I don't know if you're from Aruba or I don't know where the hell goddamn where you.
So Jarrell Miller really at his trash-talking best, and that sort of little diatribe there, taking aim at Sam Jones, Joe Joyce, Frank Warren. And then obviously we have Sam Jones off the back of that saying, "Hi at Big Baby Miller. Our promoter Frank Warren has spoken to your people, and they've told us you want a warm-up fight in November. Call Frank Warren now, and let's make the fight." Question mark, question mark, question mark, question mark. And obviously, those statements, which sort of, pulls back the curtain. I mean, because there's no reason for Sam Jones to make this up. And if Frank Warren has spoken to Jarrell Miller's people, and he's been informed that Miller wants a warm-up first, and this is now public, obviously that sort of calls into question some of what Miller has been saying. And you can ask the question, is he just sort of fronting here because he really had no intention of taking on Joe Joyce, but he obviously in public had to put up a certain front to make it look like he did? Because from the sounds of it, as Sam Jones tells it, from Frank Warren approaching Miller's people, Miller has no intention of taking a tough fight, say the likes of Joe Joyce, because he wants a warm-up. And obviously he's been out of the ring for quite some time now. He was going to be fighting Anthony Joshua on June 1st. That never happened for obvious reasons. He was caught with 3 different substances from 3 different tests that were taken ahead of that fight. Subsequently, he's been out of the ring for the best part of 6 months now. And I know I've seen Greg Cohen, one of Miller's co-promoters, say that Miller potentially could be back in the ring as early as October. But Miller hasn't been in the ring for some considerable time, so in some ways, a warm-up fight after that length out of the ring, but I guess it sort of does with what Sam Jones is here, sort of expose Miller as really just talking it up, but he's got no intention to fight Joe Joyce. And for me, I actually do want to see that fight because I actually think that'd be a very competitive fight. Joe Joyce and Jarrell Miller, volume punchers who come forward, swinging heavy leather. They don't necessarily throw the snappiest sort of punches, but they do sort of club away at their opponents and wear them down. They do have sort of a similar type of style. And I think one of the things people are interested in, especially for Jarrell Miller once he gets back to some sort of level within the heavyweight division, an opponent where we can sort of gauge him at, someone, within the top 10 or top 20. What's his engine going to be like now? Now that, obviously there's probably going to be very strict testing for all of Jarrell Miller's fights going forward. People will not want to get in the ring with him unless there is rigorous testing in place. And it sort of calls into question, some of his previous performances. A guy over 300 pounds, seemingly with, an engine like he did. He wasn't tiring when, most people thought that it was pretty freakish and that he probably should have been. And obviously he wouldn't sign up to the WBC's clean boxing program. So hence he was never in the WBC rankings. So if Miller is rigorously tested now, I think we'll all be looking for, as boxing fans, to see, well, is there any drop-off in performance? And if there is, I think people will be raising an eyebrow. But if there's not, obviously that means he's still going to be a very tough proposition for any heavyweight in the division. And this is the sort of fight that I think is one that needs to happen. Miller versus Joyce is actually quite an entertaining fight potentially, and I would like to see it. So I do hope that Miller decides actually, if there is going to be a contract and it's a decent offer from Frank Warren to face Joe Joyce, even if it was on BT pay-per-view or whatever, I think that would be a pay-per-view worthy fight, Joyce and Miller. I know not everyone would agree with that, but I'd certainly pay to see it. I think you put a few decent fights on the undercard, that could be quite a good one. But what do you make of this? What do you make of this escalating war of words and Sam Jones seemingly exposing Miller, in some of his statements as being essentially hot air? Drop a comment, loud and often, hit like, hit subscribe, follow me on Twitter, boxing_squared. I'm out.